They phoned me up, and honestly, I thought somebody had died. I was like, mate, what's wrong? Expecting to say somebody's died. Like, I need to find £300,000 in the next 6 weeks. Alex Cash owns and set up from scratch the UK's leading glamping pod manufacturer, turns over more than £3 million a year, has glamping pods that are over £100,000 to buy. I mean, more than a house, some of them.
It just exploded, and I was getting more inquiries than I could ever dream of at the time. I remember 14 hours before these guys were coming to view this, to buy 45 pods.
Yeah.
There was not even, you couldn't even resemble a pod. We worked all night, literally until they arrived in the morning. We did a hell of a lot of turnover, more turnover than we do now. But it was just chaos. And I think it took it to that point where everything just grind to an absolute halt to then realise, what the hell are we doing here?
And that's why I'm doing this podcast, right? Because it's the bad things that happen that you actually look back and go, that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
But in a minute, the crane's going to be lifting the building, the camera crew are going to be all over us, and we're literally about to create an absolute disaster. I to phone, because I thought, if I phone anybody else and tell them that I need to find that amount of money in that amount of weeks, they're just going to think I'm mental.
And it's those times when your back's right up against the wall that you're at your best. I was buzzing. I was like, I'm so excited to go deal with this. You were buzzing. Some of the ideas that we came up with were questionable.
I was just so shitting myself about how I was going to do it. You don't realise that the answer is literally free.
Well, what were the worst days like?
So I think the biggest one was probably the COVID time. That was bad. If you could stay in that mode all the time when things are good, you'd
probably die.
And all of a sudden, I stopped running and I looked at everything and I thought, oh dear.
Hello and welcome to the show where we talk to successful people about the bits that you don't normally see. Today we're talking to Alex Cash. Alex, I'll be nice to you in the start because I know that you're very hard on yourself normally. Alex owns and set up from scratch the UK's leading glamping pod manufacturer, turns over more than £3 million a year, has glamping pods that are over £100,000 to buy. I mean, more than a house, some of them. I've got a couple of his pods on my own sites that achieve over £400 a night during summer periods. And you've had a bunch of clients now on Floor a Bed. A lot of successful ones on there too, which is cool. We were just talking about that the other day. A big staff, across the company too. So yeah, Alex, welcome. Thank you for coming along. How you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good.
So let's start talking through some of that. And how did you start? Talk me through the story of setting up Podfactory.
So I think originally I left to go and work for another manufacturer, manufacturing split lodges. So that's how it all started. And I worked there for about 18 months. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I could definitely do that. Being very, very naive, very young, and not realizing everything that was involved in, behind the scenes, exactly what we're talking about today, what you don't see, thought it was very, very glamorous, thought it was the way to go. So, I then went out, managed to borrow some money, managed to get some government startup loans, and I thought, right, let's go. We go from here. Easy for sailing, and back then you think about all the things you're going to buy with the success of your mind and everything else, which just is not the true reality about it, actually what happens.
You did that as well, you don't buy a Mustang.
I did do that, yeah. So a few years into it, I all of a sudden thought I was doing very well, and I wasn't. Turns out, but yeah, I was quite young, so I was only 18 when I started, so I was relatively quite young, and so you get to learn your hard lessons pretty quick, as I found. So went off by myself, so I was 18, and we started doing garden rooms, garden sheds, stables, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Really started small. And obviously the idea was always to build it up and start doing the lodges and everything else that I was originally building. So, went off that, did that, went well for sort of 12 months or so, got a few jobs here and there, had a couple of people working for us. And then all of a sudden I put, I did a Facebook advertisement or a Facebook competition. And it just took off. And obviously at the time it was me, my laptop, and two other people. So I just had no way of fulfilling sort of half these orders that people were throwing at me. So there's this one post I remember. It got like 7.5 million views on Facebook. So it just exploded. And all I was giving away was equivalent of like a garden shed. But I think it was more the thought of it. The people thought, oh, this is amazing. We get a free garden room. So it just exploded, and I was getting more inquiries than I could ever like dream of at the time. But we just couldn't fulfill them. But the good thing about that was I went out, I saw the customers, and we managed to fill out the like a 12-month order book,
Oh, I never knew that.
which was at the time, which was really nice. We ended up concentrating quite a bit down in London. So we used to have 2 or 3 teams down in London. We didn't necessarily have a big workshop. We just had somewhere where we could just chuck stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd be doing sort of quite specialized rooms. But obviously back then I was I wasn't that good at what I did. I had to employ people that knew what they were doing,
Yeah.
because at the time, I didn't have that much knowledge. I was 18/19 at the time, very, very naive. So I had to just employ people that were a hell of a lot better than me so I could learn off them.
Yeah.
So, effectively I was a laborer in my own company, because that's just how it had to be. So yeah, so we did that. And then we then moved into a slightly bigger unit
Yeah.
where we started doing more to concentrate on some modular things. So we were doing toilet blocks. We started doing, small lodges, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then also after that, that's where the glamping side of things sort of came from then.
Yeah.
Somebody came to us and said, oh, we want, back then people used to say, oh, we're going to give you orders of 20, 15, it never materializes, as we know in the industry. But, someone came to us and said, well, we want 45 units, and they're only camping pods, they're only small units. And they said, we want 45 of them. So I went out and we built this small glamping pod. And I remember 14 hours before these guys were coming to view this, to buy 45 pods,
Yeah.
there was not even, you couldn't even resemble a pod. There was no roof, there was no doors in, the inside hadn't been finished. And me and my dad worked. I dragged him in. We worked all night, literally until they arrived in the morning. So I hadn't been to bed. All of a sudden, customers arrive in the morning. We literally have just dragged it outside. The latches weren't on the windows, and I was just thinking, what have I done? What have I done? And obviously then we've got speaking to them, and we spoke to them for about 5 to 10 minutes, and they said, oh, well, when can we have them? And I thought, hey, all right, okay, well, I suppose, well, we'll just get started. Again, at that point, we still had the lads in London doing all the garden rooms.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have that much of a team doing damping pods. So again, we had a couple of people in the unit,
That.
sort of thing. So we started thinking, oh, right, I need to do something. So essentially that's when we moved into the factory, which we have now. Obviously at the time, it it was far bigger than what we actually needed.
Yeah.
But I had this sort of thing in my head where, oh, we're gonna go huge. It's gonna go massive now.
It's the exact thing. We speak about that so much. Yeah. Let's do it so fucking big, and it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
No, and and I think from that point on, things just started to spiral. We started to get more and more people, do more stuff, and I think we did that for a couple of years, and we did a hell of a lot of turnover. More turnover than we do now. But it was just chaos. And what we speak about is all the time.
More chaos than it's now.
Yeah,
So
honestly, it's just complete and utter chaos at the time. It was, I think it took for sort of COVID, and that sort of time, to that ground us to a halt. All of a sudden, all of the holiday parks shut, all of our customers disappeared. People didn't want you working in their gardens, and I think it took it to that point where everything just grind to an absolute halt to then realize, what the hell are we doing here? Like, we have got too much going on. We've got the gardening side of things. We've got the glamping side of things. They're just doing everything, but way too much of it. And I think at that point, that's when we sat down and we were like, right, we need to then concentrate on one thing. And again, I think that's probably the naivety of my age at the time. I just thought big was beautiful. We need more people. We need to get more out the door. We need to get more materials. We need to do this, and you end up just digging this out. Oh, it doesn't help. So I think that's when we decided we'll stick to glamping. We'll stick to what we know, and then I think that's probably the stage where, a year after that, we started then talking to obviously
Yeah.
Glamptech. And then that's when we sort of got more into the business of what we've got today.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it was. I think in a way it was probably a good thing. It stopped something from spiraling way out of
Yeah.
control, and it brought some more control into what we're doing there.
Well, that's it. And I mean, that's why I'm doing this podcast, right? Because it's the bad things that happen that you actually look back and go, that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And I've been there this year with things. And I'm going to speak on like the 10th episode, I think, of this podcast, every 10th episode. And some of the things that have happened this year that have actually been the worst things at the time, it's like, that's what's actually made me now. That's what's made this going to be a success, which is really cool. So, how do you get from you and your dad at 3 in the morning building this thing for these customers that are coming and you've bundled it all together? How do you get from that to the buildings that we're creating today? Like the stuff that you build for shows, I mean, 14, 15 meters long, 4.5 meters, 4.2 meters wide, bathrooms, baths inside bedrooms, like as cool as you could possibly get, five-star hotel stuff. How do you get from there to there? What's the journey?
Well, I think obviously, in terms of, when you start your own business, I think you learn very quickly about employing people, and very, very quickly about sort of getting the right people as well. We never used to have, all the people, all the right people. We used to. It's all about knowing what people are actually capable of.
Yeah.
Knowing what your lads are capable of, knowing who's capable of what, and I think it's I think that the sort of COVID time, it really sort of helped because we scaled things right back, and all of a sudden we had some available time. We're able to concentrate on what we're actually doing, and I think it was from that point that we were able to sort of innovate what we were actually doing, and spend some quality time on it,
Yeah.
which is, where I guess it went from sort of the camping hogs and the basic stuff and doing stuff, that was okay and average, to then creating something that really is, an experience and really is where people want to go on holiday. Because, essentially these sites that we're setting up, and obviously these pods that we're creating for our customers, they need to be an experience. They need to be the best they can be. So, the more bookings our customers get, the more chance of them coming back and buying more.
Yeah.
And I think that was the sort of main thing. And so when we sort of start getting that into our heads that that's what we needed to do,
Yeah.
I think that was when we started creating better and better stuff. I spent my life on Pinterest, constantly looking at the new ideas and stuff that we can really bring into the pods and make them better. And obviously, with the outside areas now, we're really pushing the boundaries of what we can do. And I think, all of our customers, like, do really well. And I think that's what we want. We want our customers to do well. We want them to succeed, because if they succeed, we succeed, in the future. And I think that's where we wanted to be. So, it was a journey. It definitely was a journey. We've made a hell of a lot of mistakes
Yeah.
from the early days to now. We've had to rectify a lot of work. We had to go back to a lot of sites, and that's just how you learn. We chose to make sure we did that, to make sure we were sort of changing what we did and making it better. That's important. And there's no blueprint to necessarily what we're doing. With a house, you can pretty much get a blueprint of what we're doing, but because of some of the quirky things we're doing, you have to almost trial and error to see if it works, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't,
Yeah.
and you have to just, that's what you have to live with. So it's but yeah, so it's taken a while. It's taken a while, but we got to the stage now. We've got a good group of lads. The factory runs really well, and we're starting to be able to do other things as well,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
Good. It's good to hear you talk nicely about yourself, because we never have good conversations. It's always just, oh, how bad's this? Oh, you'll never guess what happened today. So it's actually good to hear you talk. like in a nice way about what you do.
Yeah, I think, and look, because of what we do as well, I think you always just end up talking about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
We always just talk to each other and say like, how, what's happened today, and it's always talking about the bad stuff. Because I think when you've got someone that's on the same level as you and you can relate, that's when you can we still laugh about. Yeah, you can try and see the funny side of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's why this podcast is really good as well, because I think it will show people, if they are thinking about setting up a business, if they are thinking about doing stuff like this, it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, it is great, at times,
Yeah.
but they need to understand that you do also get the bad times, some of the really bad times.
Terrible. Up there, terrible. Oh no, I've been changing. Like, I have fun. As crazy as it is, I do have fun. One of the best compliments I've ever seen you get was from Derry. So guys, Derry Green, he was on Dragon's Den, has the Secret Garden Glamping, which is industry leading 100% occupancy. He's actually going to be a future guest on the show. When he said about the building that you've done for the most recent trade show, he said, "This is more Secret Gardens than my units at Secret Gardens." How was that, having like the best site in the industry saying this is better than mine?
Do you know what? It's actually quite funny, because there's a bit of a backstory to, obviously, the whole dairy and secret garden experience. Obviously we do a lot of work with dairy now, and obviously we're begins great guy, absolutely great guy. I mean, the funny thing was, obviously, at the start, when me and you went up to go and see him. I mean, I was literally just going up there to nick his ideas, point blank. I was literally going out there, and I was like, we're just gonna strip that. I'm gonna have a little look at his ideas, and I'm gonna see what he's done, and try and incorporate that to some of our buildings. And I remember when we was walking around, and I was chatting to this bloke, and it was like chatting in the mirror. Like, this bloke has got this. I think got worked. So it just stood there for 3 hours. I know. Like, I was thinking, like, this bloke is genuinely so similar to me, and it's got the same. I don't know whether you call it crazy mind, stupid mind. I don't know how to explain it. Just something not quite wired up correctly. But, like, we realized we were so similar. And I think that's where the sort of partnership we are within now, where, sort of started from, really. I mean, it was we thought we were very similar. We can work together, and we can make something really special. And I think we're both. I think at the start of when you start a business as well. Obviously, this is jumping into something else, but you're very, very money orientated. But I think as you get more mature in what you're doing, I think you realize that it's not necessarily all about the money. And I think for Darren and me, it was very similar. It's about creating something special,
Yeah.
and we're very, very big on that. Creating something that other people haven't done. It may not bring you in the most money, but
Yeah.
it eventually will, because it is the best thing out there. So I think when Derry came to the show and he said, "Oh, this is great. This is exactly what we would have." I thought, mission accomplished. That for that particular show, that's what I was going for. I thought I wanted him to come there and go, right, this is ideal, and he did, and I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's really good. And I didn't know. Well, I maybe could have half guessed when we were going up that first time that you were just going to nick his ideas. But that's really fine. Um, so you have a load of clients now that have been on TV, floating about, stuff like that. I don't know what ones have actually aired, because obviously we know some of the results of ones that maybe haven't. So don't speak about the ones that haven't.
Yeah, yeah.
You were on TV as well with, I can't even remember what that was, like a boat thing. Tell us about the TV stuff.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting, actually. It's quite funny how different things you do, you end up in various different situations. But yeah, so we've done a few things. I'm sure our customers have been on Four in a Bed. And that's a great experience for them, and it's good for us as well. For people to see the pods, and see what we can do. And we've got a great relationship with our customers as well. So it's we tend to hear about it quite early on. They phone us up and say, "Oh, look, guess what we're doing next week," or whatever, which is quite exciting. So, um, I think, I can't say too much about them, because I'm trying to remember which ones are theirs, which ones haven't. So I got to be careful what I say, but yeah, they do very well. But yeah, the boat one was quite a funny one. So we got a customer down in Beccles Boatyard, which is down in sort of Suffolk way. And and so that they came to us and they said, "Oh, we want to float a pod on the river." So we'd already had a bit of experience with that. It didn't necessarily go to plan. So we
Or badly did it not go to plan?
Oh, well, so it's
Just tipped upside down in the water.
it hasn't tipped upside down, but well, we actually built a floating office, which was somewhere in the Midlands back in earlier in the process. We didn't actually make the physical building, but we were involved in the floats.
No. But if you go better if you done it on the floor, die.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean that was hindsight's a great thing. So obviously I went searching online. What's the best way of floating a building? So anyway, got chatting to a few salesmen, as they are, saying their product's the best. Came across these plastic floats. Great idea. Fantastic. Fantastic. Anyway, we built this massive galvanized steel platform. It looked amazing. Looks top job. Top job. Anyway, sent it on a lorry, sent it where it was going, lifted it off into the water, lifted the building onto it, sunk down. Perfect. Absolutely ideal. I thought, do you know what? Nailed it. Nailed it. And I was so cocky at the time that we had done it. Anyway, we parked the office where it was. And I opened the doors and thought, this is great. This is great. I walked to one side and I thought,
Sort of slant.
that's a bit weird. So then I walked across to the other side and I felt a little bit of movement. So then I got a couple of people coming with me and I said, just can we all just walk this way together? And we walked that side and they went to that side and we went to that. So I've actually built an office where you couldn't possibly sit there all day because you will generally get seasick. You will generally get seasick. And this building was meant to be a sales office. So, and they couldn't physically use it because everybody was going to feel sick.
What was sales office for future floating offices?
Well, it was actually for various other stuff on the site, but they were selling
More funny.
yeah, so they were selling stuff. So people had to sit down all day. So we had a bit of a nightmare because they trialled it for a little bit, and people generally were just feeling dizzy and sick. And oh god, I was just thinking, what have I done? Anyway, we ended up piling 4 piles on either side and creating some runners. So the building then ran up on, which means it stopped all the sort of the movement.
Yeah.
But that's when we got into which floats to use, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And there's probably people on this podcast that are into barges and bits and pieces that okay, well that was stupid, wasn't it? But you learn and you learn. So we then had something that floated. So
Yeah.
when our customer backwards said, "Oh, we want to do something that's floating," I thought, well, let's learn from our mistakes now and let's do something a bit different. So we went to a different company called Intermarine, and they built this big galvanized steel platform with concrete floats. Amazing. And I'd actually done the drawing for the chassis at the time, and I'd done the drawing for the chassis of the pod.
Yeah.
And obviously then they said, oh, it's all going to be on telly. So it was all filmed, it was all televised. So they came to the workshop, they filmed us, filmed me on camera, filmed me doing all sorts of stuff. You know, I the most embarrassing thing ever trying to watch that back is on my floating homes. And then we're on site and we got obviously the chassis under the pod and we got the chassis in the water. So they've hired a massive crane. The film crew's all on site, and I just started a little bit of a little bit of a panic, thinking, I don't know if I measured this right. So I'm going from the water with my tape measure on this steel platform, going back to the pod and measuring it, and I'm just thinking, oh, I don't think I've done this right. And everybody's going, is everything right? I was going, yeah, no, it's all fine, it's all fine. I thought, do you know what? In a minute, the crane's going to be lifting the building, the camera crew are going to be all over us, and we're literally about to create an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. But luckily, the chassis slipped straight into where it needs to go, and it was spot on. It was absolutely fine. But I did have a little bit of a panic there. But yeah, so it filmed on TV. It was really good. I mean, it's not necessarily a big market in the UK, for floating stuff. So it doesn't necessarily materialize into anything, but it's always good to get out there, isn't it?
You get a lot of people that think they want to do it.
Yeah.
Like when you get a lot of people that want to have 30 units and they want to do a float and they want to do on some moss roofs, like what we were meant to do, and blah, blah, blah. And then when you actually get to the realities of it, it doesn't turn out quite like that.
No. And I think it's one of them. I think at the time I thought this is going to be great. We're going to do loads of float and stuff. But the reality is it just isn't going to happen. It's a very expensive way of floating a building on the water, basically. So, you're probably better off getting a barge. But it's good. It's good in this experience. It ticks off. What I've learned over the sort of 8 years of doing what I've done is the amount of stuff I've learned just from people coming to us and saying, "Can you do it?
Yeah.
Can you do that?"
And your snap answer before you could think about it is yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can do it.
yes. And
Why not?
do you know what? It's not even a financial thing. I don't even think about it. You go, "Oh, I can earn loads of money." It's just more. It's a challenge,
Yeah.
and that, like, I look at it and think, I think I can make that happen. Like, there must be a way, and I love that thrill of making something happen and going, "Do you know what? I did that.
Yeah.
I did that, and we made it happen." So I think, you know, and I think that's important. I think is not to chase the money.
Yeah.
I think when you first start off with a business, you think, oh, I want a nice car and I want this and I want that, and you know you soon realize that you get so far and you just think, just slow things down and just have an easier life.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Um, so we're coming to the end of the bits you do see, the positive stuff, the TV stuff, the successes, all these sorts of things. Last thing before we move on from this, and this is something that when I get asked, it actually takes me ages to figure it out. So take a minute if you need to. What's your proudest moment of everything that's happened so far? What's the thing that you look back on and go, "Yeah, I fucking did that."
That's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult one. I think it's that's such a difficult question because there's loads of different elements that you look at and you think, I'm quite proud that we did that. I think it's more. I would say it's probably more now. Looking at the we still have bad days and we still have the days that you don't like, but I think you're probably proud of the sort of team we've created
Hmm.
and the sort of what we've managed to create to date and what we're able to do with that. I think is probably the proudest thing. We've got a great factory, we've got a great team, we've got very great people. Um, you know, Sometimes I probably should utilize them a bit more to their strength.
We're gonna come on to that.
Uh, but yeah, I think it's probably creating the sort of what we've created in terms of the sort of the manufacturing facility more than anything. Jobs are great, but at the end of the day, without what I really didn't have at the start was the core people around me to be able to actually help. And I think it just turned into me 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it was just a horrible experience.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. A lot. Right, on to the bits that you don't see, the bit we're all here for, and we're gonna have some really fun ones here. I'm gonna let you do quite a lot of the talking on it because I probably know too much about you, and I'm not gonna fucking hang you out to dry. Um, the first one that I'm gonna start with, because this one's a cracker, is for those of you at home listening. Me and Alex work together a lot. Our businesses are like kind of intrinsically linked now. Um, if I was in a big problem and it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever throughout the week, and I needed £100,000, so I need £100,000 on Friday, you would be the first person that I would phone, and I know that we would fix it. If I needed 500 quid just now, you'd be the last person I'd phone because you wouldn't fucking have it. Uh, Talk me through that.
So I think the thing is, but when you go into some pretty hard times in business, I mean you find ways in which you make stuff happen, and you don't always. It's not always the right way of doing things, but I think you become very very good at finding solutions, and I think obviously you think very much the same as I do, which is why we phone each other a lot for similar issues like an issue like that. But because I think you just have to make it work, and you know you're always going to have the times, and obviously, sometimes the issues that we have, you listen to other people, and their issues are 10 times worse.
Yeah.
That the more you turn over, the more staff you have, the more issues you have, and the more cash flow issues generally you have.
Smart.
Some of the because some of the companies that turn over all this money and make all this profit doesn't actually mean that they've got loads of money in the bank. It doesn't mean that they get through life easily. It's the complete opposite. So I think it's you've come very good, and I think that because that amount of money, you know, when you turn over, 2-3 million pound, it doesn't seem as bad as it used to,
Yeah.
which is mental because in your personal life, if you had to find that sort of money, you'd think that's crazy. Like you can, where am I going to find that from?
No.
Whereas when you're in business, you sort of you think of ways in which you can do that. and you become, quite crafty in the way you do things. So yeah, it's different. Obviously, we've got some good partners in the business as well, which is obviously a massive, massive factor. So that they help us no end. So obviously we linked up. After COVID,
Yeah.
we linked up with a timber merchant, and obviously they help us no end. We push timber through them, and obviously they help us with various different things. So obviously that also helps. So I think that another way of sort of explaining that would probably be sort of business relationships as well.
Yeah.
That also
That's
helps.
so important.
We help each other. The other partners we're involved in. Everybody sort of just helps each other out, and I think it's really, really, really key to have a really close knit sort of community of businesses and people within that can actually help you. Because when you get to those sort of moments, you can sort of talk it through with them and they go, right, let's just break it down. Let's put it on paper. And all of a sudden you think, well, actually it's not as bad as it seems. So I think, it is important. So I think, yeah, so it's one of them. I think you just have to make it happen, don't you?
So something you said there that I want to pick up on, the kind of big turnovers, big perceived profits and stuff like that. People like you and I'm sure that our whole team just looks at us and thinks, oh, they must be loaded. And generally people that maybe don't know us as well think, oh yeah, they must just be loaded. They run that business. It turns over £3 million. What is the reality?
Um, so I mean, the reality is a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of worry and a lot of stress. I think don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not all bad.
Just mostly bad.
There are good elements to it. One of them is probably the freedom to be able to plan your own week and not being told what you can or can't do, sort of thing. I suppose.
Come here, you flew to Dubai last week on a whim.
Is that basically? I think there is good things before I just dive into the bad things. But yeah, I think the perceived sort of look of what people get into in business. It's really difficult. Like, people think, oh, they turn all this money over. They've got all this equipment. They've got all these pods leaving. They've got, that they turn over £3 million a year. They must be loaded. But the reality is, you have to find a lot of money to run a business like that every month, and every year,
No.
and every day.
Yeah.
And you need to keep it going. And things like Christmas, for example,
Much time.
3 weeks where you do not earn a single penny. The business does not earn a single penny, but everybody still gets paid. All the rent has to be paid. All your suppliers want paying at the end of the year. It's times like now. Like, it's not all roses. Like, we have to get everybody paid. You don't always have the funds there available to do it. You have to make it through. So I think, yeah, it's definitely not all roses. And the stress is a bit of a killer at times, and for both of us on various different things. And I think staff don't always see that, but obviously they don't have to see that.
It's not their problem.
Exactly.
It's not their problem, and that's what people like us do need to remember is it isn't their problem. I mean, we probably do our best to make it not their problem. Like we're the last ones to get paid, and we will always find money to pay people on payday no matter what. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest scary things of running a business. Certainly, kind of in the early days, and when you're in fact, the super early days are the good times because you've got way more money coming in than going out. And then you kind of get used to that and you grow your costs and grow your costs and grow your costs. And yeah, ultimately, there's definitely been points in my business when I've been not just the last one to get paid, I just don't get paid. Like there's big spells where you just don't get paid. I mean, thankfully, I'm a little bit away from that now. But I know that we've both been at various points.
100%, and I think it's you always get to that stage as well. I mean, like, in the early days, we used to do a lot of the garden room stuff down in London. I was fully on the tools. We only had 3 teams, max. A lot of times we run around with just 2 teams. We did all right, like back in the day. We were doing high end buildings at quite a high cost for in quite a lot of them. And our overheads were extremely, extremely low. And I think you then start employing more people, and you only have to take your eye off the ball for a small period of time, and all of a sudden, everything you've built up has just gone right. You're back to nothing again, and it's very, very difficult for people to forget that. And I think it's not taking your eye off the ball is obviously a very, very one that you learn very quickly.
Yeah.
You still have to be on it. Still have to be on it. If you sort of relax and you just sort of stop looking at everything, that's when things build up. All of a sudden, it's just an absolute nightmare. So I think, because at the end of the day, your staff aren't employed to do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're employed to do their job. They're not employed to look after your
Mhm.
business. So it's you still have to do that. To a degree. So yeah.
Now, something that I think just epitomizes that, and it's obviously this one's the other way around. I remember a phone call that you made to me a while ago. You basically phoned me up, and honestly, I thought somebody had died. You came on the phone, you're always so chirpy, no matter how bad things were going. I thought somebody had died when you phoned me. I was like, mate, what's wrong? Expecting to say somebody's died. You're like, I need to find £300,000 in the next 6 weeks. Talk me through that.
So I think it was an accumulation of a lot of things. We had a few jobs where obviously the finance companies hadn't paid out.
Yeah,
We had a few jobs where we were just couldn't deliver because of groundwork to bits and pieces, and it just all snowballed into one thing, and all of a sudden, we owed seven, eight, £900,000,
yeah,
and it was quite a scary thing because you're running and running, and then you sort of sit down and you sort of write it all down, and everything sort of when it rains, that phrase, when it rains, it pours. It really does. When things start to go wrong, if you're not there to catch it,
yeah,
it was carry on rolling down the hill, and that's what we found very, very quickly. And I think it's to be honest, I think you were probably the first person I thought to phone, because I thought, if I phone anybody else and tell them that I need to find that amount of money in that amount of weeks, they're just going to think I'm mental. They're just going to think, you sure you've got a viable business there? Like, you sure you don't have to do something really, really quickly?
yeah,
And I think it's but the mad thing is, like, once you get over the sort of the scare of it, you know, you have to be quite resilient in a way that you can sit there and just go, right, let's just break it down. What do we have to do
yeah,
first? Right. We can't afford to go get the materials for that, so let's go finish that.
yeah,
We can't afford to do that, let's do that. Let's stop buying anything and let's just get everything wrapped up. And I think that's what we did. We just literally, we had a couple of weeks where everybody in the workshop, we all went out and did different things and just kept things rolling. And I think it brought me back to sort of the COVID
yeah,
times when we had to run out and
yeah,
just get whatever we could just to keep the thing moving. And I think it's yeah, we to an extent we did it. Um, we got the money in, and the finance companies paid out for the jobs we'd done, and it keeps on going, keeps on going. But that's a prime example of taking your eye off the ball.
yeah,
It was probably 2 or 3 weeks where I just didn't keep an eye on what was going on
yeah,
and what was being paid and what was being done, and all of a sudden I stopped running and I looked at everything and I thought, oh dear,
yeah.
you know, we owe a lot of money, but we got over it and we did it. And, we had a very, very similar time during, obviously, just after COVID. All of our customers dried up,
Yeah.
everything went, and then we had to go and find work.
Yeah.
So that's why we ended up doing all the homeless centre stuff in Stoke-on-Trent.
No, yeah.
We did all that. I did a load of work for Stoke City Council. We did all that sort of stuff. We were making SIP panels because we had all the SIP manufacturing equipment. We were making SIP panels through the night and through the day, just to try and get any sort of money through you could. So I think you just become a bit numb to the value of it,
Yeah.
and you just try and figure out a solution to get it.
Yeah.
I think.
And you look back on things like that, I certainly I do, and it's those times when your back's right up against the wall that you're at your best. Like, you go through spells where you're like, "I just need to deal with this." And, like, I look back at spells like that in my life, and I am the best version of myself that I could ever be, and you just find a way out of it.
I think that's what separates, people out, I think, into what they can or can't do. So obviously, I'm the same as you. Like, when you're backed against the wall, you all of a sudden you do things you didn't even think you do. Like, you achieve things you
Yeah.
never thought was even possible. You just make stuff happen,
Yeah.
and it's times like that you think, perhaps when things are going smooth, I need to think a little bit more like that,
Yeah.
because you could probably make things a lot better when times are going well. I think the problem is sometimes when times are going well, you drop your shoulders.
Yeah.
You think, oh,
That's my biggest
done
problem,
that.
my number one biggest
Yeah,
problem.
and I think that is really, really hard. Because I think, because you get so wound up and stressed about all the bad times.
Yeah.
As soon as you get a little bit of a good time, you just go, oh,
Yeah.
that was better. And all of a sudden, it builds up, and then all of a sudden, it's just chaos in. It's like the wave. This wave, if you could just flatten out that wave a little bit, it would be
Yeah.
so nice, so nice. But I think, as an entrepreneur, I think, like, sometimes you don't do that.
No, you deny that because you're so hyper focused at that point, and then you almost like lose your ability to be hyper focused again because you're not dying anymore. It's like fight or flight.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm saying that. And I think if you could stay in that mode all the time when things are good, you'd be
Well, you probably die. Like that's the thing. There's just so like that like you couldn't survive that long. But yeah, that's definitely my biggest problem. Back to the phone call, right? So you've come on that phone. I've thought somebody's died. Probably within, and this goes back to the business relationship things. Need 300 grand. Got 6 weeks. Somebody's about to die. Like, oh my god! By the end of that phone call, we couldn't stop laughing. I was buzzing. I was like, I'm so excited to go and deal with this. You were buzzing. Some of the ideas that we came up with were questionable. Various degrees of legality. Some of them were jokes, some of them weren't. And yeah, it just goes to show that like one good conversation, you can just completely switch everything. And like we were just so focused on let's go and fix this right now.
what's funny is you were just about to cancel your holiday.
Yeah,
Yeah, you usually going to Crete like the day after, and you're like, I just think I'm gonna cancel the holiday. I just think I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna fly back to the UK, and we're just gonna fix this. And I was like, Callum, I think like, I appreciate that, and it's bad, but I don't think that's actually gonna help. I think you should still go on holiday, but I think we're both like, I think once you meet people that have got the same mentality as you realize that trying to do it by yourself is not the answer. Yeah, and trying to do it with other people is a hell of a lot easier. And then you just talk it through and think, actually, I've got the answer. No, it's right in front of me the whole time. I didn't even know. Didn't even know. I was just so shitting myself about how I was going to do it.
yeah.
You don't realize that the answer is literally free.
No, I think that's a perfect transition into what I think, certainly when we first met, you were the worst at. You're still one of the worst people I know. You're getting a lot better, so well done. Firstly, you're getting a lot better, so well done. But for the first 6 months that we worked together, I did not know another person in your company existed. That was just you. I was like, oh, I'll just get my admin person, speak to your admin person about that, and you just looked at me blankly. Like I remember that with one of the early calls, and yeah, 6 months when I didn't know anyone else existed, and even a year or 2 years in, and you were very you didn't want to give anything to anyone else. Why? What's the story there?
Do you know what? I don't know. I think it's one of them. Think because I was so used to always doing everything in the company. I think I just kept a lot of, in my eyes, if they didn't have an impact driver and a drill in their hand, they weren't earning money, and that's exactly what I just had it in my mindset. I think it was just I'll deal with everything else on the laptop because I can't get on the tools anymore because I haven't got time. And then if they haven't got a drill and they've got that, they're not making money. Like I just had it in my head, and then I got all of a sudden we got one person in the office. So I got my dad in the office doing the buying.
Yeah.
So he was in the office, and even then, like I really struggled. I'd look at him and go, why is he in the office? And I think, oh no, I put him there. But I think he needs to be in the office, and it's just I don't even know. It's just a really weird mindset. And then I think obviously we then met,
Yeah.
and then obviously you were like, you need an admin person. I was like, what is she gonna do all day? I was like, what's this admin person gonna do all day? And and anyway, you did the advert, or Jen did the advert.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I got the admin person in, and my life just it changed. It honestly changed what I was doing. I realized I could give so much stuff to her,
Yeah.
which effectively makes my life so much easier. And you realized how organized I was in terms of anything admin wise, folders,
Yeah.
anything. No one could find anything. And then she
It's all
just,
in your head.
yeah, she just completely began to sort everything out. And I think that's when I started to realize, oh, I do need help. Like, I really do need help. I don't actually have a life outside work. I do need help. And I think that's when it sort of evolves, and you sort of realize that I never actually had a business. Like I didn't have a business, it was me.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Job.
Yeah, literally I had a job,
A really shit job.
a really shit job, doing about 5 people's jobs, running a company. You know, when people said, "Oh, yeah, it's quite good you've got your own business," I never had a business. Until that point when I realized I needed to get people in certain places, because without it running yourself, you don't actually have
Yeah.
a business at all.
No. Yeah, it's good, and you've taken like massive strides forward, and it's good to hear you talk about that because you've still got a long way to go.
Yeah, oh, 100%.
We're making a massive transition now. We've obviously got another guy coming into the office who's incredible. I think he is great, and he's going to revolutionize things. and you're really starting to structure things a bit differently. I've been doing this, I've been speaking about this a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing where you go with it because I think it will completely revolutionize the business when you do start to bring in more people, as it already shown it has.
No, definitely, definitely. I think that, it's hard to do that when because with the industry we're in, with the economy and everything else at the minute, just trying to get that steady flow of work
Yeah.
all the time, it's not easy. And anybody in our industry would know, it's very up and down.
Yeah.
You get waves where you got that much work you can't even compute,
Yeah.
what you're doing. And then you get times when you think, oh God, I could really do with some work. Oh God, I really need some work. And it all just comes in.
Yeah.
So I think now we're getting a much more of a steady flow and you start getting people in place. It just makes your life a lot easier. And I think it's trying to get it in your head that you do need people to do that and structuring your business in a way that there is available money to be able to pay for that as well. Make sure you're charging the right amounts. Make sure you're not doing too many favors. You're not doing too much of, you're charging for everybody's time
Yeah.
and making sure that it actually does work like a business. You're not a charity, you're a business and customers should understand that as well.
Yeah. So what are the work days like? Like what is a day that you've been sitting with your head in your hands and you're thinking, fuck, what are they like?
So I think the biggest one was probably the COVID time. That was bad. I think at the time it was it was me and it was my dad and we had a lot of things tied against you know a property
Yeah.
and there was sort of machines and there was all sorts of stuff that was all of a sudden we couldn't pay for
Yeah.
caused a lot of issues and a lot of issues. And I think, every week people hounded you for money because you just do not have it.
Yeah.
You do not have it. You have all your customers have disappeared. You've got a unit full of pods which you can't finish because no one wants them. There's no point in finishing them because no one wants them. So I think that there was a time where I remember sitting there and it was pissing down rain. It was outside the back of the unit. It was dark. It was during COVID, and I just remember sitting there and thinking, "What have I done? I have created something which is potentially going to cause me and family an absolute nothing. Like, what do I even do? Where do I even go? Like, it's you very much think it's very much your fault.
Yeah.
We owed a lot of people money, and it wasn't very clever.
Yeah.
But it couldn't really been avoided. So it was one of them. And I think at that point, I'm not even sure to this day how I sort of managed to pull myself out of that little hole because I was very, very sort of low. But anyway, we sort of moved on from that. The next few days, I went out and told all our suppliers. I said, I can't pay you anything, but I need help. And believe it or not, somehow, I actually had some response from that.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to send anything anywhere. So I went to the transport company and he said, right, okay, I'll send some lorries in. Still owed him a fortune, still did it. And just to get things moving again, went to see a timber merchant, which we're now obviously partners with. And obviously we spoke to them and obviously, we owed them a lot of money. And obviously they jumped in to help.
Yeah.
So I think I realized there was a lot of people around me at that particular time that were willing to actually help.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize. I thought because they were hounding me and hounding me, because they didn't know the situation, they weren't. All they wanted was money. Whereas obviously, we went through that and realized, oh, actually, they're actually willing to help and they're actually willing to jump in. And I think that's a pretty bad time when you've got nothing and you owe a lot of money.
Yeah.
All your customers have disappeared, and it was a time that something like that hasn't really ever happened before. Like people, you can you can go to as many business classes you like, you can go to many business schools you like, but no one's going to teach you how to survive through COVID. Like you don't get taught that sort of stuff. So that's when you have to be, inventive and think outside the box. How can you make that happen with not a lot of money, not a lot of free time, and how can we pick this through and just make it happen?
Yeah.
And there's always one. There's always one.
So final question, and I think it comes on perfectly from that. If you could go back to the first day, we spoke about the first day a while ago, when you were gonna go out and you start building these things and all that sort of stuff. If you could be back at that day and you could choose whether or not to walk down this path of doing everything that you've done, would you do it?
I think the first reaction would be no, definitely not. That it's caused that many problems in my life. No, but I think it's more than anything, I haven't yet been financially rewarded for my efforts, I must say. But I think the lessons that I've learned over the sort of 8 years I've been doing this, you could not have learned anywhere else. You get taught to be very, very resilient, and you get taught to be, I feel like it's skills which you can take anywhere.
Yeah.
So if I decided I didn't want to do lab anymore, didn't want to do anything in manufacturing, I want to go and do something else. It's a completely relatable skills, and you will be able to succeed with them. And obviously, any sort of successful person, or somebody that runs their own business will be able to tell you that it's not necessarily what you can learn from the textbook; it's what you learn from the experience. So I wouldn't I'd probably do things completely different, but
Yeah.
I would only do that because of the experience and what I've learned. So if I could go back now with the experience that I have,
But you laugh at.
you'd be laughing,
Yeah.
absolutely laughing. But I think that's where you got to sit down and realize that obviously, you know, you just have to what you've learned over those 8 years, you just need to put into practice now.
You don't get the experience without the problems, right?
No,
That's
no, you don't, and you don't get good times without on the bad times. So, if you're in that place where you think this is it and this is a really really bad time, you just need to muckle for it because if you can do it, you'll be happy about it one day, I suppose.
You all know a funny story about that. I didn't know this story was going to come out already this early in the podcast. There was a day when I was like, "We are right in trouble here," and you said you only know the good when you've had bad. You know the song, "You only know the highs when you feel it low." This and that. And I remember a day when like shit was completely hitting the fan. I thought it was game over, like it was a complete mess. And I remember just sitting playing that song like 5 times in a row. I was like, "Only know you high when you feel low."
Eh. Honestly, it's true though, isn't it? Like it is true, and I think it makes you a better person for it, isn't it? And it's make me need to start playing. That's 5 things that I play in the morning. And that'll be a meditation for me in the morning. But yeah, so I think is what I.
Right, so we've got our tradition on this podcast. The last guest leaves a question and a quote for the next person that comes on. So I've got some questions here. Take a question, read it out, and then tell us what your answer is.
That's a difficult one, actually. That's a really difficult one. So Netflix are making a movie about your life.
Yeah.
Who would play you? What's meant by that? Do you reckon, like actor or?
So it could be anything, right? So I seen Ross Cook was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast. This is so funny. Do you know Ross Cook, the guy that runs through after
Yeah, years into yeah.
and Stephen Bartlett was like that question. Netflix are making a documentary on your life or a movie on your life. Who's going to play it? He just snapped, went Ron Weasley. I could not stop laughing. So it could be funny. It could be serious.
Do you know what? Do you know, I get it a lot. I mean, so I get either, people say what's it, Daniel Radcliffe,
Yeah.
or he's like, what's that? Or it's I get that a lot. Or I get Charles Leclerc, so I don't mind that one. F1 driver, I'll take that one. But yeah, no, it's probably Daniel Radcliffe. I reckon he'd do quite a good job as a new pilot. Do you know what? Do you know what? I reckon I can make quite a good film out of it. I mean, there's quite a few stories I can't actually share it on it. So I'm not sure where it would go. But yeah, I mean, it'd probably make quite a good little documentary,
Yeah. Yeah, that's for later. Writing in quotes. Read it out and then tell what we think of it.
Yeah, this is actually quite funny. This quote. This reminds me of you. So I'll for example, a little bit of background on this. So I remember like last year. So I think it was about November. I phoned up Callum like, well, I think it was like a Saturday morning, and I said, "Oh, you're all right, mate." He said, "Yeah, yeah, no, I am." I was like, "All right, that's sound all right, okay." And I was like, "Oh, well, why are you so happy?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm going to climb a mountain." And I was like, "All right." And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go climb the Kilimanjaro." I was like, "Oh, okay." I was thinking, like, that's one of the highest mountains in the world. Like that's not that easy. And I was
No.
thinking, okay, yeah, cool. So, well, when are you doing that? Oh, I'm doing it in a month's time. And I was like, oh.
Honestly, ADHD time to get a feeling.
And I was like, oh, what spurred you on to do that? And he was like, He was like, "Oh, just a rush of the blood to the head, and I've just done it." And I was just thought, okay, same, fair enough. And I remember getting on several Teams calls. Callum's on a treadmill, doing some walking bits and pieces. And I was thinking, in terms of training, like fair enough, walking on a treadmill, but that's quite a lot. You need to try and do. So anyway, I'm pretty sure you'll share the what happened in the end of that story. But I tell you what, I've never laughed so hard in my life when I go shared the videos. I know the best thing was, I was like, I was texting you, and I hope everything's going all right. And then I just had a phone call.
Was it on FaceTime? On FaceTime.
And I was like, that thinks like you're in a car. It's like you've been rescued.
No.
And then, about, I think it's about 2 hours, 3, 4 hours later, you then FaceTime me again. And I was like, that looks very much like the lounge in the airport. That looks very much like a cocktail. So I think you can explain that one in one of your podcasts.
I'll be one of the 10%.
Says it. I think that was an experience, but I'll tell you what, I've never lasted in my life. And the fact that you thought, oh, well, what I'll do is I need to get from one side of Africa to the other. So I'm gonna get a 4.5 hour Uber.
Let's get the fuck out of there. I want to get home.
I mean, how you even got an Uber in Africa? I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure there isn't that much as that about, but you managed to get a 4 hour Uber. Anyway, that's funny. So that is quite a good quote. So the steeper the mountain, the harder the climb, then better the view from the finishing line.
I would have known.
You didn't actually make it the top. So,
No, like, it was a nice view from a third of the way Hutville throughout 7 days off.
God, it's but yeah, so it's that's quite funny. But that is true. That is true. I mean, that is very not relatable to you, but no, relatable. It is hard. It is hard, but you will get eventually. And I think, do you know what? It's only probably this year that I feel like we're actually getting somewhere.
Yeah.
We're actually able to do other stuff outside just making glamping pods. We're able to concentrate on sites of our own. We've built other projects with you. And we're really sort of growing what we're doing. We're not just going to be a manufacturer. We are going to be create sites. We're going to create actual locations where, with dairy, with it, places where people really want to go.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of the best in the UK.
Definitely. Where do people keep up to date with you? I know you're not very good on social media.
Yeah, social media is probably not my strong point really, but I mean they can follow me on Instagram if they want to, and also they can follow me on LinkedIn, and they can see what we're up to, and they can follow our company Instagram page and see what we're up to, company Facebook page. But I think that's got to be one of the things in 2025 I've got to improve on.
No.
It's my social media presence is non-existent, and I think that does help. That does help, and not even just from a business point of view. I think from everything, I think it just really helps, doesn't it?
100%. So guys at home, thank you very much for listening. This conversation's been great. We've been with somebody great today. If you could subscribe, that would help us to be able to speak to somebody maybe even greater next time. But thank you, Alex, for the conversation. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've learned a lot about stuff I didn't know as well.
Perfect. No, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it. To see you. So hopefully you can get some different people on the show, and I'll definitely be watching to see if anybody's better than Lois.
Thank you.